You know that feeling when your company's quality management just seems completely disconnected from the actual day-to-day work? Well, this explainer is going to fundamentally change how you look at your organizational chart. We are unpacking a seriously provocative white paper by John M. Cachat, and it rethinks a massive industrial-age artifact, the quality department.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Eliminate the quality department. I know, it's a total shock value statement, straight from the source material. Sounds pretty drastic, right? But Cachat makes a really compelling case here. Keeping a siloed quality department isn't just inefficient anymore. In the AI era, it's actually structurally incompatible with the kind of process-driven data that modern operating models demand.
Now, I can practically hear your immediate concern. Wait, if we axe the whole department, who actually makes sure our products don't just fall apart? Who's enforcing the standards? Well, take a breath. The actual processes, the rigorous checks and methodologies, those aren't going anywhere. In fact, they're getting a massive upgrade.
Which brings us to Section 1, the precedent and the paradox.
So to really get this, we got to look backward for a second. The groundwork for this huge shift actually started well over a decade ago. Back in 2015, the ISO 9000 standards body just straight up eliminated the requirement for a standalone quality manual. And let's be real, nobody was reading those dusty old binders anyway, right? But the thing is, they were sending this blaring signal that most organizations completely missed. Quality is a property of the process itself, not a document. You literally cannot silo it.
And that perfectly sets up this table, brilliantly illustrating what we call the ownership paradox. Look at a modern enterprise. Functions like accounting, HR, engineering, they all share ownership and execution across the entire company. The CFO might govern, but every single department executes the budget. Quality, though, it's the ultimate structural anomaly. It operates as this completely isolated jurisdiction that owns and executes the standard.
Moving on to Section 2, the catalyst, why AI breaks the silo.
So you might be wondering, if this paradox has been around for decades, why fix it right now? Well, because artificial intelligence is forcefully blowing that silo wide open. The crucial point here is that AI just cannot automate or govern a process that only exists in a quality vacuum. It needs a shared enterprise-wide data ontology. If your process infrastructure is locked up in quality, your AI is basically just stuck doing basic inspection automation. To really work, AI demands structured process governance across the whole shebang. Accounting, HR, supply chain, you name it.
All right, Section 3, the new paradigm, shared process engineering.
To relieve that tension from earlier, here is the white paper's solution. Migrating to a distributed process engineering model. We are absolutely eliminating the isolated organizational structure and that whole policing mentality. But, and this is key, we are rigorously retaining all the vital quality tools. SPC, FMEA, ISO standards, audits, they do not disappear, they just get redistributed.
Let's walk through how that redistribution actually plays out. You've got a central process engineering team sitting in the middle, right? They act as enablers. They set the governance, provide the tools, and manage the AI data ontology. But the true ownership, the actual continuous improvement, that gets pushed out to the functional areas where the work is literally happening. Operations owns operations quality. HR owns HR's quality.
Let's get into the tactical execution in Section 4, the blueprint, integrated process excellence.
So, how in the world does a company survive a transition this massive without losing control? By using this 6-step IPE deployment framework. It builds up logically. You start by establishing a positive environment and getting leadership aligned. Then you push out to the functional areas so they can define, document, and communicate their own processes. Finally, you lock in the measure and control phases, which drives continuous improvement. It bakes quality right into the company's DNA.
Now, check out this surprisingly specific number, 81. The source notes there are over 81 pre-built IP packs out there for different industries. So whether you're in aerospace, pharma, automotive, whatever, these packs completely eliminate the dreaded blank page problem for process documentation. You aren't starting from scratch, you just adapt a pre-existing process library. It's a huge game changer.
And if we look at the timeline, you can see how this roadmap cascades over roughly a year. The first couple of months are all about executive leadership alignment. Then, months 3 through 8, you're building out that shared infrastructure. Right in the middle, you officially transfer ownership away from the old silo. And by the end of the year, you are hitting true AI enablement and continuous improvement at scale moving forward.
Section 5, Objection Busters.
Naturally, a shift this massive is going to face some serious internal resistance, right? We have to address those corporate myths head on. And the biggest, most fear-based objection you'll hear from executives is definitely about regulatory compliance. They'll say, hold on, if we delete the quality department, won't we lose our ISO 9000 certification?
Well, the counterargument is actually pretty definitive. ISO 9000 requires a quality management system. It does not require a siloed quality department. In fact, a shared process engineering model satisfies ISO requirements way more completely because you're embedding those documented, measured processes everywhere, in every single department.
Okay, but what about the people? That's the vital HR question. What happens to our highly trained quality specialists? Are they out of a job?
Absolutely not. Their expertise actually becomes a massive strategic asset for the whole enterprise, rather than just compliance overhead. They shift from running around like corporate police officers trying to catch defects into a teaching and enabling role. They provide methodology expertise to everyone else.
Which brings us to the final, most deeply ingrained corporate fear about accountability. Won't quality just completely fall through the cracks if there isn't a dedicated department watching over everyone?
Now, what's really fascinating about this slide is the paradigm-shifting realization it offers. The source argues that quality falls through the cracks precisely because there is a dedicated department. Think about it. When quality is its own separate jurisdiction, it basically encourages operations and engineering to ignore it and treat it as someone else's problem. By distributing that ownership, you aren't losing accountability, you're multiplying it.
The traditional quality department is a legacy artifact, and this paper makes a rock-solid case for evolving past it. So I'll leave you with this provocative question to take back to your own team. Are you ready to stop policing quality from the outside and start engineering processes for the AI era? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep engineering better processes, and we will see you in the next one.